The secret to well-being is discovering the power that is your birthright, the power to create a happier, healthier life, drawn from our own vast internal resources. Join Jules and her guests as they gently guide you to shift your perspective from the familiar negative to the divinely connected, a place that will not only positively impact your world, but possibly shift the planet. It's all right here on Law of Attraction Talk Radio.
Welcome to Law of Attraction Talk Radio. I'm Jules from beautiful Southern California, and boy, do I have a great show for you tonight. We're going to be talking with my all-time favorite author, Mr. William Whitecloud, who is the #1 best-selling author of self-help in Australia. Now, if you haven't read The Magician's Way, then you really don't know everything there is to know about the mechanics of the law of attraction. This book is so phenomenal, and we have William here tonight with us to talk about everything that's been glossed over or brushed aside, because now we are talking about the actual mechanics of the law of attraction. If the law of attraction hasn't been working for you, this is the show that you need to hear. So sit back, relax, and just enjoy our wonderful conversation with Mr. William Whitecloud. Welcome, William, to Law of Attraction Talk Radio. I am delighted that you could come back and share with us some more insights.
Thanks, Jules. Thrilled to be back. Really enjoyed our last conversation, and I know what the topic of today's discussion is, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Great. I know that the audience is going to look forward to it too, because I just finished The Magician's Way. And for any law of attraction practitioner out there, if you haven't read this #1 best-selling book in Australia, you need to do it, because this is going to give you such tremendous insight into the mechanics of the law of attraction. It is so important, and I just loved this book.
Well, I was saying high praise coming from you, Jules. I mean, you've studied it all, you've read it all, and I got to grab what you've just said, because there's a testimonial for me. Thanks so much, because that really is high praise coming from you. Thanks.
After 7 years of interviewing best-selling authors, never has there been a book that I loved more than The Magician's Way. And also, the last time you're on, we talked about The Last Shaman. But you have to have both books. You just can't have one or the other, because they absolutely complement each other.
They do. I mean, the Magician's Way, which I wrote first, and quite rightly so, deals with the mechanics of the law of attraction. But I think a thing that's very overlooked in the law of attraction, to really be honest, is it's implied or even taught as if you need no wisdom to apply the law of attraction, And let me tell you, the alchemists who devised this, where do you think all of the law of attraction, everything comes from? From alchemy, from mind science, devised thousands of years ago. And the very people that devised it said that the half-wise shall be dashed against the rocks by reason of their own folly, which means if you think you can take this in a simplistic way, without the wisdom that drives it, you're going to be smashed. And so you see, the Magician's Way is about the mechanics of it, which people have pretty got down. But also, I think one of the reasons why you like the Magician's Way, because it's a very educated, sophisticated look at it of how it really works. And also, you got to read The Last Shaman, or at least from somewhere develop that wisdom that then drives powerful creating. Because I've traveled the world, Jules. Really, I have.
I know.
Done work with thousands of people all over the world, and not just shallow talks and that. I've worked very deeply with people, and I know the problems facing people. And people have that the law of attraction is fabulous. Thank God it's out there. That the freeing people's minds and lives and creative expression. and yet I know for all that, to this day, people struggle with it at best. Well, at best, they actually work it well, and there are some. But I would say for the majority, there's a struggle in working in with it. And for a really good portion, it actually makes their lives worse. They are being dashed against the rocks, you know. So look, don't be put off by it. It's a brilliant phenomenon, but you just, you know, it just takes a bit of instruction. We don't just jump in a car and you know, start driving around. And so our bodies and our minds and our consciousness is a vehicle. And if you mean to, you know, get this vehicle about effectively, well, you got to learn the laws of this vehicle. It only takes one learning, just like learning to drive a car, then you got it for life.
That's right. That's right. So let's go to the beginning of the book, because you start off with the golf swing.
The golf lesson.
I think that this is so important because you're seeing. Explain this chapter so that everybody gets it from your view. It's brilliant, and we need to understand the very, very first thing about the law of attraction. Law of focus.
Yeah, no. And people go, oh, well, you know, how interesting can a golf lesson be? Well, actually, when you read it, it's huge. You know, women friends of mine who hate their husbands' golfing games and whatever, they're absolutely fascinated by this chapter because it's the principles that are being taught therein. And you see, the Magician's Way, the book, I actually set out to write a textbook, funnily enough, about these principles. And I had a lesson with this magical golf coach, Chris Barkway, who lives in Australia, a very good friend of mine. And it was such a phenomenal experience that I thought I'd write about this as the foreword to the book, as the introduction to the book. So then as I was writing, it was so story-like. I thought, you know, there's a story in this. So I continued it as a story. But so that golf lesson became the first chapter, and in fact is the most factual chapter of the book because it's a story. So what that first chapter teaches is what Chris taught me basically in this golf lesson. I went along there, and even knowing all that I do about the law of attraction, let's call it that, I arrived there and I expected this man, Chris, to fix my golf swing, you know, to show me how to stand properly and how to hold the club and how to aim and, you know, bend my knees and transfer my weight and all these technical things. And he got me to hit a few balls, and then I did, and then he said, so, you know, what were you focusing on then? So I said, well, holding my club like this, bending my knees like that. And he said, well, that's why you play terrible golf. And I thought, oh, great. Now he's going to show me the technique for how you do it properly. And because I'd heard what a great golf coach he is. So I thought, at last, someone's going to show me finally how you do it. And he totally dismayed me because he wasn't interested in that at all. He just said, what were you focused on? You know, and I started telling him all these details. And he said, that's why you play golf, bad golf, because you're not focused on where you want the ball to go and the huge illusion of golfing. But this translates so to life, especially if you read the book. You'll see how this just so translates to life. Yes. The illusion of golf is that, you know, there's a circle that you stand in, that you know, your swing circle that your club extends to, and how you stand in it, and that everything that happens in there is what's important. And if you get all of that right, and Jules, by God, you know, it's exhausting. You've got to get so much right in that circle to hit a good shot. And the illusion is that you've got to get all of that right, and then you'll finally hit that shot. And it is an illusion. That's what Chris taught me, is that you can transfer all of that, you can take all that out of it, and imaginatively, just all the way through the swing, through the process, see the end result of what you want to achieve. In other words, the vision of where you want that ball to land. And if you can do that, you will play brilliant golf. And you know, I tried it out, and then it worked. You know, the guy had me within minutes hitting golf balls blindfolded through the fork of a tree 100 yards away. And
And it's simply because you go of the control of the swing and you put your mind's focus in on that ball and seeing that ball hit that tree. Not you didn't
exactly,
even have to physically see
no.
it, you had to have it in your mind.
This is the point it leads to, is that we have a natural ability that can pull all that together. It only needs to see what it has to, just needs to see the end result. In fact, the more of the process that we bring to it, the how, the more that's going to screw it up, and get in the way.
Right.
And so the point here is that we have a natural ability, and I've been talking about this a lot lately, because the way I've been putting it is I'm not a blamer, but in a sense, it's a failure of education, because the term education, if you understand where the term comes from, it comes from educare, which means to bring forth, to draw out of. That means there's something in us that we really should be taught to bring out of. But in fact, I'm not just blaming the schools, it's just the whole way we operate, the whole illusory orientation we have in our society is we get taught there's rules to everything, and we learn the rules and follow those rules, and all of that process orientation really is based on a belief that there's nothing in here, there's no natural ability, we don't have any genius in here, we don't have any creative spirit in here. So in view of that, we have to rely on outside forces, we have to rely on understanding, knowledge, technical ability, force of our minds, force of our bodies. You see, but the truth is that, and this is what the educationalists of old who introduced the term education knew, is there's something in you, and that's what you've got to rely on. Now, can I just say quickly that this force inside of us, what I've subsequently learned, is engaged by end results. And you disengage it by focusing on process, on the how. So if you get stuck in the how, you disengage that force that's inside you, within you. The power is within you, as Louise Hay said in that seminal book of hers. The power is in you. How long ago did she write that? It's been around for ages. The power is in you.
Right.
And that power is disengaged when you become, inordinately process orientated, when you're focusing too much on the how, and it becomes engaged when you're more focused on the end result. And that's the simple point.
Right. Now let's look at something that just happened recently. Let's take Tiger Woods, for example. He went through a lot of personal issues, huge changes in his life. He was not able then, and he's brilliant with keeping his focus. He knows how to direct it, how to hit the target. But once all of those issues came up, he was unable to have that solid
Absolutely.
focus.
He was totally distracted, exactly.
For years. So he's finally getting to this point in 2013 where he's starting to get his focus back, his mojo, because he's letting go of everything. Maybe he's healed. Maybe he's just releasing the blocks. But that's a person, that's really a great way to see how we sabotage ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really be an authoritative commentator on Tiger Woods' life. I don't, know him and follow his life very closely. But I will say this: when he was at the top of his game in the old days, I remember an interviewer, out there with him when Tiger was practicing, just driving balls, and behind them was an old abandoned factory, and it was a long way away, and the interviewer said, "Could you hit that building that far away?" And Tiger Woods looked at him and said, "Which pane of glass do you want me to hit?" That's it. You see, that's that incredible focus. And obviously, this terrible situation that he went through, which I really feel for him and, of course, his family and everyone involved. You wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Oh, no.
Even just as an outside observer who's not really sure what's going on there. You can, I mean, it's just obvious. This is not a situation that you'd envy anyone. But also you can see it's an absolute distraction from the focus. You see, and so no focus, no great results.
Okay, so that's good, and fortunately for us, we can understand what he kind of went through, so that we can apply it to our lives. So
Absolutely.
thank you, Tiger Woods.
Thanks. Yes.
But I would like to ask. Now we can see the ball, we can see the target, we can see it in our mind's eye. How do we apply that to other situations that we need to focus on? Perhaps, and I know the economy right now is not that great for a lot of people. They don't have a job. How do you apply the target with that ball hitting that target to possibly getting a job that a person would want?
I get this asked a lot, America. Almost every radio show that I go on where there's some talk back and people can ask me questions, it's the same questions asked is look, I practice the law of attraction. I see the end result. I feel the feeling. Yeah, this is what people have been taught, you see, and it's not all there is to creating, is to see the end result and also to feel the feeling of the end result. But anyway, people are just telling me, to impress on me how they really try and how they're really putting into practice everything they've been taught. But you see, here's the thing, Jules, is that this is what I'm saying. People have been taught to focus on an end result and to feel the feeling of that end result. But rarely have they been taught that you must get out of the way. Well, yeah, sure, you even hear that, get out of your own way, but people don't know what really that means.
True.
And what that means is that you have to go into a creation free of any understanding of how it's going to happen.
Ah.
You see, and this is the thing. If I had to interview 100 people who are, say, going for something that is not working out for them, like a job. If I took 100 people that are practicing the law of attraction, who are looking for jobs and the jobs aren't happening for them, I know what they'd tell me. I'm seeing that job in my mind, William. I'm feeling the feeling. The feeling of that job. But yes, but also they're feeling all the other fears and all the other assumptions and everything. And they're in their assumptions about what it takes to get a job. And you see, that is negating them flowing to having a job. I mean, you see, to me, the economy, to a creator, to a powerful creator, the economy should mean nothing. And I really mean that. Outside circumstances should not affect you. The symptom of a person who's not creating powerful and doesn't have a powerful understanding of creating is they are affected by outside circumstances. If you can look at terrible circumstances in any situation, you'll always see that there are people in those situations that thrive in spite of them and despite them. So what they got that everyone else hasn't got, they either consciously or unconsciously in some way applying the law of attraction in its deepest application. And it's this, is that if you are going for something, then you have to be able to let go of how you expect it to happen. Because as long as you are expecting that it's going to happen in a certain way. For instance, I'll just give you one classic way, is why is everyone expecting that their fortune, that what helps them to survive and thrive in life is dependent on someone else giving them a job?
Ooh, that's
right
powerful.
there. Who says you don't have it in you to create something brilliant yourself that that lends energy to the economy, that lends energy to this pool of energy, rather than going, there's this finite pool of energy, who got some for me, please? Where's your energy? You see, where's your energy? It's in here. But when you just go, well, you know, how you make a living in life is someone gives you a job right there.
You're in a box.
A little box that you're in right there. And what's the reality of that little box? There ain't enough to go around. So then you go, the only way I can do this is get a job. And the only way I can get a job, you know, is compete in this. And it brings to bear all of your belief systems. But what if you let go of any way you understood or believed how you meant to thrive in life, how you meant to have abundance in life? Now, I'm not just preaching this. I'm practicing it. No, okay. I am. I'm getting through life not knowing how it's supposed to be, not knowing how my money's going to... And every year I make more money. And the people that I'm educating in this, that actually take the trouble to practice it, same as them. They're outside the groove of the economy. They're outside the groove of employment. They might be employed. That might be how it ends up they make their money. But it's not how they have to. It's not what they're dependent on. And anyway, in their minds being freed up, they're going to have more chance of being attracted to jobs if that's what it's going to take. But I'm honestly, it's the process, and it's the process orientation that trips people up. They know all about the law of attraction, and yet they're still tied to their assumptions and expectations of how things happen. And if you're going to apply the law of attraction, if you seriously believe that there's a force in the universe that you can send out thoughts and it'll bring things back to you. If you believe that if you have that almost religious idea about, metaphysical idea about the universe, well, you might as well go the distance and trust that you can totally let go and it's going to work for you. And in fact, it's going to work for you the more you let go. And so you got to let go of, you got to let go of your assumptions about how something's going to happen. And why this is important is because as long as you assume that there's a way things are and there's a way things work, you'll be subject to that, not just as a law of that happening, but also your mind will not be opened to receiving and creativity. And the definition of creativity is making connections that aren't otherwise made. Look at Andy Warhol. When you look at a can of baked beans, do you see $1 million art piece? No, you don't. But Andy Warhol did. That's creativity. It's making a connection between things that haven't been made before, that other people don't. And you see, when you let go of the process, you open your mind to its creative potential that allows it to make connections between things. Then you see pathways to whatever it is, the love that you seek, the money that you seek. Without that, you're just restricted. But not only are you restricted, you're restricted in a way that then also engages all your limiting beliefs as well. And so this is why I'm almost out there on my knees pleading to people to say, pay deeper attention to these principles.
So where do you put the focus then if you're not focusing on the end results? Some people just want to have a job and not have the responsibilities of anything else. And that's okay. They want it. But how do they get that? What action steps do they take? They have to stay out of the control, stay out of the golf swing, stay out of knowing how it's going to end up, but simply trust that the universe is going to provide whatever means they need to survive. Is that it?
Absolutely. Look, the fact is that when you enter into a creative orientation, and let's talk about it in terms of law of attraction, when you start applying the law of attraction, and I coach people with this every day, constantly I'm having new people start up with me, and I start them in at the beginning of the conveyor belt that's going to take them through to creating what they love. Can I that you see, what is going to be attracted to you is what inherently belongs to you. You know, you have an inherent nature. And I think it's a really great definition of love, that love is a connection, and love is what you are inherently connected to. You can't go out there and buy love. You can't go out there and force someone to love you. When you fall in love, and real, meaningful, deep, lasting, sustainable love, it's someone that you're going to have an inherent connection to. And you know, that inherent connection is going to survive a lot of shocks to the system, because there's something innately, well, inherent to it, that there's an innate belonging. And so it is with everything. Everybody inherently belongs to something. Everybody inherently has love, abundance, but in their own unique way. And so the art of creating is not about forcing yourself to have what isn't yours. It's not about your nature is artistic, let's just say, but you decide there's more money in computer technology, and now you're going to force yourself to become a computer boffin. It's just not going to happen, not by the law of attraction. What creating is about, what manifestation, in my opinion, is in my experience is really about, is having what you belong to. That's what, or that belongs to you. That is when you're going to experience true, sustainable, lasting, and meaningful and joyful abundance. And so when you enter into this orientation, in one sense, you're not just looking for a job. You're not just, you know, looking for a quantity of money. You're not just looking for, you know, a wife with bigger breasts or something like that. You know, you're with some societal image of what you should have. You're opening yourself up to the riches of who you really are.
Right.
And that's what it is. You see, you're talking, you love the magician's way. And it's based on the 7 secrets of magic. What's the 3rd secret of magic? Everybody has a heart. And that means, doesn't mean this organ pumping here, or that you're a good person and you feel good fuzzy feelings. It means that there is an authenticity to you, that there is something deep and meaningful to you, and authentic, that is your natural nature.
Right.
And so to me, creating is a function of coming to that. And so when I teach people the law of attraction, it can start out very rough for them, because what isn't true to them can start falling away.
Ooh.
But if they allow that process, what is true to them, almost, 90% of my work, Jules, is supporting people through letting what is not them fall away from them.
Ooh.
And after that, there's only 10% more work forever to do on these people that I work with. Because when you let what is not you fall away, then what is you will come to you. And again, it's this thing of not having expectations. It's having a vision of, a greater life, of a bigger energy, of a deeper fulfillment, any kind of expanded sense that you can imagine. And when you do that, what is not you is going to fall away, and what is you is going to fly into you. Wow. And then you will have security. You will have financial security. You will have everything, but it might not look like how you expected to it. Expectations. I used to be a trader, a commodity trader, trading financial, physical commodities, financial markets, money markets, options, stock markets, all of that. And I was trained by a man who was the world champion. 4 years in a row, he won the Chicago Board of Trade Championships. And no slouch wins that, and certainly not 4 times in a row. To be at that level of mastery, you got to be on your game like you cannot believe. People that are even coming close to win that are masterful in a way you would make you faint if you realized how masterful they were. And you know what his number one mantra to me was all the time is that expectations are the biggest killer.
Ah, I could see that.
And you know, that doesn't mean you don't live in an expectation and a positive assumption about what's going to manifest for you. But that if you sitting there telling the universe how it's supposed to be feeding you, and like the only way you can be set up to be enjoying life, well, you're in for a rough ride or some big disappointments, because you've got to open your mind to it being different than you thought. The thing is ultimately what I've seen with every single person I've ever trained, without who follows this through, is they end up loving who they are and loving how it is, and you know, loving the way it's come to them. But the person who starts out, inevitably when we start out, we've got an assumption about, you know, how we want to be set up, how it's got to be, how the job's got to be, whether we working for somebody else or not, or in what kind of job. You know, I think you used the term quite appropriately earlier. People want this while having control over their lives.
Right.
Same time. So it's like, you know, Robert Kiyosaki, who, can you tell me someone who has contributed more to wealth creation than Robert Kiyosaki? I don't think so. And, you know, what he said is that everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. so, no, you can't go to heaven without dying.
Exactly.
Exactly. So you can't be a creator without giving up control. And this is what it's about.
You say control.
When someone reads, you know, this is what people love about the Magician's Way, is because it's these principles told through a story. And this person, isn't it? I mean, even in the Last Shaman, even all the way through the Last Shaman, he's still given up every last shred of control. That's what the story is from it when it starts in the Magician's Way and finishes at the end of the Last Shaman. It's just a series of really, aside from all these teachings and what you do and, you know, the techniques and that, it's a story about a guy giving up his control and always thinking that's the last bit of control he had to give. And then he finds out there's always more control to let go of.
But it's not just of control, it's of the fear that actually stops you. So maybe losing the control is bringing up the fears. And you talk a lot about fear in both books.
Yeah, I mean, because it you know, what keeps people from being manifestors is fear. I mean, you know, I don't want to sound judgmental and be too blunt, but you know, if we're going to talk frankly about this subject, is if something, you know, if someone's stuck, well, you know, there obviously is some kind of fear at play that the person is seeking to avoid through whatever form of control that then doesn't allow them to flow into whatever flow is available for them, to make whatever connections that are there to be made and to see the possibilities that are there to be seen. But you see, so this is the skill. I would say, look, I could teach people, but fundamentally, essentially, there's two things that you can do to deal with your fear, because fear is not real. It's just an illusion.
Man-made.
It's man-made. Yeah, it's manufactured, right? And so I think there's two skills. Essentially, there are a lot of skills, but if I had to distill it down, and I was only allowed to, I only had the time or the ability to arm someone with two abilities, this is what I'd say to them, is that, first of all, you have to have the ability to see what you're telling yourself. All the time, your unconscious, out of the underlying limiting belief systems that you have, they're communicating to you all the time. And you have to have the ability to see what your unconscious is telling you. And when you do, it's a really interesting thing, is that when people are in what they're in their perceptions, when they in their reaction to their unconscious, they just see the reality. They don't see it as something that arose out of a message that was whispered into their consciousness. They're just seeing it in the form of this reality that they're in, and they can even point to prove it through there's experiences happening that's bearing it out. But actually, where it all arose was from a message, from maybe you call it a thought, but often it's even more subtle than that. But your unconscious is talking to you, and it's whispering things in your ear. And the funny thing is, Jules, the interesting thing anyway, is that for the person who can just stop and listen to themselves and hear what they're telling themselves, I've just told you, I've worked with thousands of people, and I've helped them in this ability. And do you know, I've never met the person who ever believed, when they heard what they're telling themselves, believed what they're telling themselves.
Really?
No. If you can stop and listen to what you're telling yourself and the assumptions that are going on there, and that actually then driving this perception and experience that you're now caught up in, and now believe at this experiential level, because now you've got proof of it because it's happening out here. But if you heard it at the level that it's arising, I've never met the person who believes it. And I've done this thousands of times. But you'd think that once I'd find someone go, no, I really believe that. I really believe that I'm worthless, that, I'm not worth a cent. Or, there's no power in me. I'm just absolutely unviable, or that I'm just ridiculously incapable, or whatever it is. That I don't belong, that I'm the human being that doesn't belong on this planet. That's me. I've met people who experience that, and but when you can take a person to the level at which they can hear what their unconscious is telling them. I haven't heard a person who believes that. So that having that ability of self-awareness, the ability to very quickly deconstruct what you're telling yourself, is a very powerful ability, because it takes a lot of power out of the emotional experience that's happening for you, and the mental experience. So that's that. But also, you see, the other thing is that emotions determine reality. And I mean that's just self-evident. You've got to admit that the day that you're happy, you have ecstatic news, it's your wedding day or whatever it is, you're happy, and the way you feel influences the way you see things, your outlook on the world, and what do you know? The world tends to reflect that to you and bounce that back, and you have this positive momentum of feeling good. I used to be in sales, and you make a sale and it makes you feel good, and you go out there all happy, and you talk to your clients in a happy manner, and they start throwing sales at you because they feel good about you, and they go, what the hell, their resistance is down. You feel bad on a day and it all goes down. Even the guys that were going to give you a sales order, you go around to them and they decide they're not going to give you. It all implodes. So it's very easy to see how it can be true that emotions can have a very strong influence on how our lives go. But I take it to the point that they are everything. They create everything. And you see, because what I also help people to do is that we can deconstruct this, and you can see what emotions are arising for you. And then if you have an ability to analyze them and deconstruct them, you can also see what behaviors they're compelling. And then that behavior creates responses, reactions that then create a chain wave of experience, you see, and you just experience it as this end result, and perceptions and end result.
So it's giving you greater insight into your own self and how you're working. And you've also said, matter of fact,
Can I just say, Jules, can I just finish this by saying, is that you see, end results have an emotion. People don't realize that, but there's a corresponding emotion to end results. So if on the one hand you can deconstruct the negative chatter that you're telling yourself and see through that, you go a long way to taking the power out of it. But also, if you can, you don't have to feel it. You know, this whole thing, people say, oh, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling what it likes to have a job. That's not the emotion you're looking for. The emotion that you're looking for isn't like a feeling. It's born of an end result. You must just see the end result. It's like I play golf and I envision where I want the ball to go. I'm not feeling that. I'm having a clearest vision as possible as where I want the ball to go. And that then sets up its own emotion. And that the emotion of the end result isn't an emotion you have to induce or force. It's its own emotion. And that emotion supersedes any other emotion in your consciousness, especially if you've taken the power out of it by deconstructing it and then adding this emotion of the vision to it. That emotion is going to supersede any other emotion. Alchemists, you know, they say you use the higher against the lower. What do you think they're talking about? They talked about it in terms of vibration. But I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you that when they talk about vibration, yeah, everything does have a vibration. But what their mastery, what their whole ability, what their skill was about using emotion against emotion, was an understanding of emotion. And their whole art is based on using the higher against the lower. And the highest emotion in your consciousness is the emotion of end result.
in the last interview, you mentioned that affirmations are really detrimental to us in some cases because they're simply affirming our belief in the lack.
Absolutely. And let's be clear about that I'm not saying affirmations are not good or proper. And in some cases, I encourage people to affirm certain things, certain end results anyway, affirm end results. But here's the thing, and this is where they can be very detrimental. And this is another distinction that you really have to be aware of as an empowered and conscious creator, is that there's an end result you want, and you can be there affirming it all you like, imagining it all you like, envisioning it all you like, and expect, well, why doesn't this job or whatever it is I'm envisaging float into my life? Because I've been taught that if I do, it will, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. How does this really work? Well, the thing that you really need to understand, and I'm glad we're covering this point again, because it is maybe the most important principle to understand, is that the part of you that creates all of your reality, your experience of life, what happens to you and what you have in life, and just your life basically, what the part of you that creates your life is creating based on what you focused on. And that's why you get this shallow, half-wise idea is, so the part of you that creates your life creates based on what you're focusing on. So if I just imagine a Ferrari all day and have, poster visit all around and a picture of the same Ferrari on my mirror and all that, I'm going to have a Ferrari. It's like, no, you're not. Maybe for some people, but for the vast majority, it's not going to be, because the part of you that creates your reality isn't just looking at what you wish you had. It's looking at where the power is in your consciousness. This is the distinction here. The part of you, call it what you want to in your own language, but the part of you that creates your life creates it based on where it sees the power in your consciousness. So for all your thoughts and your feelings and your dreams and wishes, what is that being sponsored by? You see, is it being sponsored by a clean, true desire to have that? This inherent connection, in other words, this is something I would inherently love. It's something that inherently belongs to me and naturally I would love and want. Or in that case, where that is the motivation, that is much more easily going to flow into your life than where the motivation is, I need this because there is something limiting about me, something incomplete about me, something unviable about me that I have to fix. Because there's this problem in my life, in my consciousness. And so you see, then that part of you that creates your life, it's not a fool, it's not a simplistic little tool. It's seeing the whole depth of your consciousness. You see, what you're wishing for in life is what you see on the surface. Like, you know how an iceberg, you see the tip on the surface, don't you? But we all know that 90% of it is down below the water. And so your self-conscious waking consciousness is a tip of the iceberg. And your subconscious, the part of you that creates your life, isn't just looking at the tip of the iceberg and go, oh, that's the iceberg, let's create that. It's looking at the whole consciousness, looking at where the power is. And so if it sees that where everything's arising from is this point of fear, loss, incompleteness, whatever, it's going, there's where the power is. That's what I'm going to create. And you know, I've done enough of this. I've done thousands of seminars. I've done so much research through this work I've done. And I've researched people, I've sampled people, I've questioned people, I've worked with people, and people tell me it's only my poorest. I've got lots of friends. You know, my friends at the top end of the range, socioeconomically anyway, are billionaires. I live in a town where, you know, it's full of billionaires, and many of them are my friends. And I've got hippie friends, you know, people got nothing. And it's only the poorest people I know that have got fridge magnets. The abundance of the universe is eternally come and flow in my way, you know. There they are. But actually the truth is the abundance of the universe is avoiding them like the plague. It's going to the people that haven't got fridge magnets, because those guys don't have a sense of separation. They don't need to affirm it. It's like, who would stand in front of a mirror going, I am beautiful, or, you know, I'm smart, I'm really smart, I'm not dumb, I'm not dumb. You know, I always say, and people laugh because they see the truth in this, is that I always say that the person who stands in front of the mirror is going, I am beautiful, they're going to drive out and nearly hit someone, and the person they nearly hit is going to shout at them, you ugly bitch, you know. or the person who's going, I am clever, I am smart, the person's going to shout out to them, you dumb bastard, you know. And you know, life's going to reflect that.
Wow.
That insecurity, you see, that you're giving the power to. And so I'm not saying you have to be careful. That's another belief that I don't believe in. You don't have to be careful, but you have to be mindful. You've got to understand these things at a deeper level. Is what are you, you know, what is the underlying assumption? What are you, in all that you do, what are you giving the power to? And that's going to be the determinant of what you manifest in your life.
Okay, now let me ask you, because in your books you talk about, and you do some meditations in your books. You're guiding people. Now, I'm a hypnotherapist. So is it, in my results from what I've seen, taking a person into hypnosis to release some of those past perceptions and jumping over that critical mind will often help them to stop focusing on the lack.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually know a lot of hypnotherapists, and you know, you guys have really great results. And you know, it's what you do for people basically, is you're there taking the power out of these things that people normally pay the attention to, and you're releasing that.
And you do the same thing with meditations, though.
Oh, you know, I do the same thing with many techniques, but here's the main technique I use. You see, is that the main technique is an intention. And I really mean this. this is, you really, with everything else, I believe that you're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You're ultimately just, you know, fixing something that's broken, and you know, if you're working on the unconscious, where the unconscious beliefs are, well, that if that's where you're just always operating and working, that's just where you'll always be. There's something else that's available to us, is to actually just forget about and shift to another part of ourselves that is whole, that is connected, that is free, that is creative, that is our genius. And from where that level of consciousness, the lower level of consciousness doesn't affect us. You know, the alchemists, they had another saying, is that the pendulum swings, but the master sits above the apex of the pendulum, you see. And so it's levels of consciousness. And so really the ultimate antidote to all of this is to raise your consciousness, is to come to the part of you that is your super consciousness, your super conscious, and live out of the higher level of consciousness. And really there's only one technique for that, and that is to make the intention to live from that side of yourself. Wow. And this is why I love alchemy as a model, because you see, alchemy is the art of raising your consciousness, is evolving yourself to live at a level of consciousness that is above the level of identity and ego and beliefs, etc. And the thing about raising to that level is that you can't do it rationally. I mean, your rational mind is the part of you that created all of your beliefs, and you know that was its job, to establish your identity and also to perform mechanical functions. So, but if you're going to hand over to that part of you to try and raise your consciousness, it's not what its job is. Its job is to maintain your identity. So it's not going to work. That's why Einstein, I think it was him who said, you know, the mind that created the problem can't fix the problem, can't solve the problem. And so it really is a function of manifestation. It's actually the ultimate manifestation. If you talk about the law of attraction, you're going to attract things to your life. Well, the ultimate level of manifestation, the ultimate level of attraction is attracting the consciousness, you know, the higher consciousness. And so, like everything else, it's an intention. And, you know, what I was taught is that you must have fundamental end results in your life. You must have end results in your life, because end results not only get you what you love, but they also, end results connect you to your creative nature, to your creative spirit. But also you must have a foundation. You must have a platform of end results. And that the highest end result is that you can rise up to your superconscious level of existing, that you can live from your nature. And so like anything else, that is an intention. And it is what I teach people, and you know that I have the privilege of training long term. And anybody who does that experiences an extraordinary transformation in themselves and the experience of life. Wow. And you know that is the bottom line application of, you can use the law of attraction to try and attract this and this and have a bit of money here and all that. But if you use it to raise your consciousness, then you go into a paradigm shift. And in that paradigm, this and that, success is a natural part of your life, of every aspect of your life.
Boy, that is so good. Oh my goodness, that's just wonderful. William, we are all out of time, but I have so thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. You have really helped so many people. I can't thank you enough. You are really, truly a blessing to this world.
Thanks, Jules. Same to you. I'm just a mirror of you, I'm sure.
Aren't you? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another great show from Law of Attraction Talk Radio. If you'd like to comment on tonight's show, send an email to jules@loaradionetwork.com and have a great week.